Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so of course, as you guys probably already know, if you saw my previous video, I can actually speak freely. I've freed up all the space necessary on my phone, so that is a huge revelation. It's going to be a longer than 14-minute video for a change. Um, Possibly, we'll see. But what I'm saying is this: the Lakers played the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight, and it's going to be in Cleveland. Obviously, LeBron James returning to Cleveland is always a big deal. Of course, he brought them a championship, so it shouldn't be any boos or anything crazy out there. It should be a lot of love for him, just like he saw at the All-Star game. And of course, unfortunately for everybody in Cleveland, he didn't get a chance to break Karl Malone's all-time scoring second place record. Of course, he is now behind only captain Kareem Abdul-Jabbar now. So unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to take care of that in Cleveland. He was just a game too soon with the Washington Wizards, and he played fantastic. Um, but the Lakers came up short because we just really did not help ourselves in any way defensively. Kristaps Porzingis, of course, embarrassed everyone that switched on to him because he was able to shoot over them, etc., etc. We don't really want to rehash that much further than that. So now we move forward. We brush that game off. We look at our road trip and we say we're 500 thus far, with us playing pretty dang well. I'd say the Lakers have played very well if you really considered the fact that they played well in the Washington game, um, despite being down for the most part. And at the end, we still had a big lead that we had come back, that we had coughed up. So at that point, we took some steps back, but we understood that we had carried momentum from that Toronto game where we went completely nuts and played excellent into that game. So it was more so, in my opinion, schematic issues that cost the Lakers the basketball game, and less about effort and intent and togetherness and things like that that have kind of hurt the Lakers along the way. It felt like our chemistry had taken a turn for the better after that Toronto game. Unfortunately, though, we still have other issues. And while you may cover one hole with the Lakers, two more will sprout up in its stead. And unfortunately, the size issue was the big one of the day. So as we go forward, we look at the Cleveland Cavaliers and realize they provide similar concerns because they have one of the best centers known to man, in my humble opinion, even though he hasn't developed into that just yet. That's where it's coming. It's where it's headed. That's where this is headed. For those who don't know, I'm talking about Evan Mobley, the future rookie of the year for this season. This young man is basically Anthony Davis's prototype, his doppelganger in a way. They play alike. They are both similar in the way that they look in terms of their stature and their height. Skill set similar. Some differences here and there, particularly with shooting the free throw. Uh, Young fella has to get his free throw game up to par, and I think that'll come along with reps. Just like anything else, he's just starting his career, and he's already showing us that he's going to be one of the premier players this game has to offer. Um, and then they have another guy that I think just the same about. I think they're going to be a duo to deal with for a very long time, and that other gentleman's name is Darius Garland. I don't get a chance to see Darius Garland very much, but I do know what his stats have looked like, and he's taken a step into a different atmosphere and made an all-star team this year because of it, including the fact that he was contributing a great deal to this Cleveland Cavaliers team, who has just been excellent this season. They have exceeded all expectations, and even I, who was high on them, looking at the fact that they had those Twin Towers and Darius Garland and all these other different complementary pieces, including Markkinen, I looked at that team and I said they're probably 2 or 3 years away from being who I thought they ultimately became right now, which is, I think, an Eastern Conference contender. Now, unfortunately for them, they happen to be in an Eastern Conference that's full of contenders. The whole dang conference is full of contenders, but that does not mean that they haven't held their end of the bargain. Now, unfortunately, they lost a key member of their starting lineup. Actually, they've lost members of their starting lineup all year long, but we're talking about Jared Allen, who went down with what I think is a season-ending injury. I think it's some type of break. I didn't check. I'm sorry, but I think he broke a finger or something like that. But he's out and will remain out until that thing heals up. So, they're down a whole center that really provides them the difference against most teams when they can provide that twin tower effect with Evan Mobley and Allen as well. And you couple that with Markkanen that they like to play at the three at times. When you have that lineup, that 7-foot lineup, it reminds me of our old lineup, the Lakers, when we had Powell, Bynum, and Lamar. Provide so much size and flexibility within that size because those guys can move and kind of do other things outside of the paint. So you just love that dynamic. You can see that when they're fully healthy, they're really going to be a problem and will continue to be a problem for many years to come if they can keep those three together. And I think that plan is underway because they've already got Jared Allen signed to a long-term contract. And, of course, Darius Garland, they're going to have to pay him, but they have their bird whites for Garland and Mobley. So you feel really good about them. Also, Isaac Okoro is a young player that they've picked up who's developed extremely well, who's healthy right now, playing great ball as we speak. Does a lot of Swiss Army knife things, very athletic and defensive-minded. Not somebody you expect to hit a lot of threes, but he does do a lot of other things that make that team come together. He's almost like a small Draymond Green for them. And they have passers in those various positions that make them a cohesive bunch. You look at Evan Mobley and realize he's a fantastic passer. You look at a guy like Darius Garland and realize he could lead the league in assists someday. You do consider the fact they have a guy like Caris LeVert, who also has point guard skills attached to his prolific ability to score the basketball. This is a team that has nothing but talent. And you consider the resurgence of Kevin Love, who I think is in a success story situation where he was stuck on a bad team after everybody left, and the team got good again. And the team that he's on now fits the role that he would otherwise be looking for in this league. Like heaven just kind of came to him, and you just have to love that aspect of the situation. Now, I'm not saying the Cavaliers are going to win a championship, but I am saying if he wants to finish his career in Cleveland, he's going to be playing for something for the rest of it. And I think that is such a wonderful blessing for a California guy that we root for. So now whether or not he's going to be a part of their future is determined by a lot of different things. But what I'm saying is this season, he's on a playoff team, and that was not something he was expecting to see happen, I don't imagine. So you just look at this Cavalier team, you see the shooting there because of him and Markkanen and Garland and all these different guys that can shoot. You see the size in the paint. Even when they lose a Jared Allen, you still have to deal with Evan Mobley and his ability to defend without fouling, which I think is a very, very unique and important stat because only he and Anthony Davis are as good at that maybe ever in any form of basketball, which I think is a really, really interesting form of uniqueness that those two players have that no other player literally ever have ever had. And they happen to be of the same size and stature too, which I think speaks to the importance of players that have that body type and what they can be when they're coached properly and when they ultimately have talent to go along with it. So I don't think that's an anomaly. I think that can be a commonality when a player of that stature actually plays the game at a certain level. So that's just something I'll be looking at going forward because those two players are so much alike. And just my mind going. But either way, the Cleveland Cavaliers are a team that the Lakers are going to have a hard time competing with this evening because they have so many players that are healthy, that can do things individually, and they all play well together as a team. And they're playing for something on top of that, given the fact that they've slipped with the injuries in the standings. So this was the top 4 team in the Eastern Conference before players started getting hurt. And I think that with the type of depth that they have right now, they should be able to maintain their status in that middle of the pack road, try to keep themselves out of the play-in tournament. So it's important that they win tonight's game. And because of it, I think this is going to be a playoff atmosphere. Obviously, LeBron James coming back to Cleveland is going to have it so that team is going to be awake for that alone. But then you consider the way the Lakers played in the last game where he broke the record and Washington is still lost. You just got to think that the atmosphere is going to be real tight out there in terms of this is it for the Lakers. Obviously, we look at our schedule, we see more than not we're going to run into teams that we're not favored to beat for the rest of the season. And because of that, we're going to have to bring a certain level of intensity if we want to continue to play. Meaning, if LeBron James wants to continue to have this season be within his control, because I do think that if we continue to slide, We may have to sit him for the remainder of the season at some point if we somehow fall out of that tournament or don't bring AD back. Certain decisions, even if we don't sit him, the situation could be of that for which we'll just basically give up. And that's what we don't want to have happen. So you got to win tonight's game. You got to meet the intensity of the Cleveland Cavaliers if you don't win tonight's game, to bring forth the type of good play that will carry forward for the rest of the season, because these games matter so much. Maybe you don't fall out of the play-in tournament necessarily, but what you don't want to do is get to a point where you're still not playing well as these games approach the ending, as the season approaches its end. We are a team that's going to be getting healthier as the playoffs approach, which I think is very dangerous. Like I said, the Lakers, the Denver Nuggets, the Brooklyn Nets, these are teams that are all getting players back just in time for the playoffs to have happen. I think the Golden State Warriors is a little tricky because they thought they would be getting some players back. They maybe aren't coming back, that kind of thing. But ultimately, same thing with them. You got to watch those teams, because as those players continue to get more healthy, that means that the depth of the team starts to increase, which means they could probably withstand 7-game series better than you would probably project them to have projected them to throughout the course of the season. So we are in that mix. Now, of course, we have so many other deficiencies to where even if we get healthy, it's no guarantee we'll be able to get ourselves to a point where we're fully healthy. We'll probably be gone by then. But what I'm saying is teams cannot play with us, believe it or not. As bad as we've been, what I'm seeing is a team that's getting healthier. AD will be back. Kendrick Nunn, from what I hear, could be back. And these youngsters, guys like Austin Reeves and, of course, our guy Gabriel, they're getting more reps. THT is playing more. That's more experience than they may have had earlier in the season when we were considering what our team was. This team is getting better, and we've seen it over the last couple of games. If only the Lakers would have rostered a center, Moses Brown, who we'll see tonight because he plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, we would probably find ourselves in situations where other things will fall into place. Russell's starting to find his confidence. He's played great over these last 2 games. I'd expect he was going to continue that tonight, and I do think he will. The turnovers have been still kind of but the shooting's coming around. The decision-making's coming around. The pace is coming around. He's starting to gauge who he wants to be out there in these situations while LeBron is on the floor. And they're learning to trust one another. And I like it. I like it. Even if we're not able to get rid of Russell Westbrook, I am willing to promise everyone that he's not going to be as uncomfortable next season as he was this season. Some of the stuff that we saw this year, it ain't going to be like that next year, because they've learned. They're building something right now. It's coming late, but not only are they going through something because the team's so bad, but they're building something because they're starting to get more reps on the floor with one another. We are a team that's getting better. Remember, I said this. I don't know if it amounts to anything, because as long as you have Frank Vogel on the team coaching it, he's going to put small ball lineups on the floor, as we learned against the Washington Wizards, if we hadn't learned that the last 50-something games we've played. But, fact of the matter is he's going to continue to put us in positions to always lose. Even if we have all these things come together, you still got to deal with that variable. So, yeah, man. As you guys know, I could talk about the Lakers for weeks. But as it pertains to this particular game, I don't think it's going to be a very long conversation. They just have too much talent. They're just going to be attacking us in too many different areas. Now, the good thing about it is we do have THT, who kind of tweaked his ankle a couple games ago. He'll be available. Wenyen Gabriel tweaked his ankle. And I could argue a big part of why we lost that game was because he was in foul trouble and didn't get a chance to stay on the floor long enough to impact the game in a way that would have helped us. Now, we could have put him on the floor in the fourth quarter against Porzingis. I don't know if he would have been able to stop him, but I think he would have gave us a better shot than what we saw out there. So that is something we'll always look at as we assess the entirety of this season. That will be a glaring game because Porzingis did what he did. So as we move forward, you just got to assume that Evan Mobley is going to do the same. I think that's why it's relevant. Evan's not the same type of player as he is, but he's better. That's the problem. He's better. I think Porzingis obviously stretches the floor more so, But if you're looking for somebody who can take advantage of bad size mismatches and things like that, you're not going to look too far from him either. He's going to do that. And then you look at Darius Garland, who, like I said, is putting up superstar numbers in both the assists and points category and has some defensive intangibles out there. I just don't know how we beat them. You talk about a guy like Lauri Markkanen, who's been healthy for a couple weeks now. He should have his legs underneath him at this point. Think about a guy like Chris LeVert, who just came to the team. He's been on the team now for a couple weeks. He should be used to everything that they do and should be very, very worked into the equation at this point. You just see all this coming together for the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are going to have some of those players having more opportunities with the ball in their hands because of the absence of some of the players that are going to be missing, including Dean Wade and Rajon Rondo, our very own guy. And, of course, Jared Allen, who doesn't affect the offense as much, but, of course, does have some shots that will end up in those other scorers' hands more so. You think about a guy like Lauri Markkanen tonight, who will also be able to take advantage of the size. Things that Porzingis did to us, Lauri can do that stuff to us as well. So they just have so many different ways they can attack you. And the athleticism of an Isaac Okoro. We're going to need a guy like Austin Reeves to carry forth the same way he played in the last game, doing a little bit of everything, offensive rebounds, drawing fouls, not being hesitant with the three-point shot. Hopefully it falls. These are things that are going to matter for us. We're going to need to limit our three-point shooting. We're going to need to limit our turnovers. And we're going to need to force some turnovers, because in the Washington game, we only forced 8 of them. Did some good things against Toronto defensively. We're going to have to get back to that. You got to be willing to play Dwight. Got to be willing to let guys like THT and Wenyen Gabriel make mistakes. And the reason why you have to allow them to do that is because if you sit them down, you're bringing in players that cannot help you. That is the reality of it. You need those young players out there. Malik Monk's name hasn't been mentioned yet. I am looking for him to continue what he's already been doing. I ain't talking about him because he's consistent. I can pencil him in for good scoring, nice shooting numbers, good playmaking ability, and just effort. I want to see him continue to try to crash the glass where necessary, because we need boards from everywhere. Stanley Johnson, please play Stanley Johnson. We are so much better a team when he's out there defending. We know he's our best defender. Put him on somebody he can actually guard, though. Don't have him guarding people 7 feet tall. Just because he's your best defender does not mean that he can stop people who are taller than him. It's unfair. You're putting a guy in a position where he can't succeed when he's fighting for his career here. I don't appreciate how we've been handling Stanley Johnson, and I think he's been handling us phenomenally, and I'm happy with him. So that's what I want to say. I'm not happy with how we're using him, though. He should be at the 3, guarding threes. Let him be successful at what it is he's meant to be. DJ Augustin, please. The guy is shooting well for us, and we're having trouble shooting. If you're going to have the Lakers shooting 43s, your best three-point shooter is DJ Augustin. Let him shoot at least 4 of them. I mean, that's the problem I have with the Lakers. The roster is constructed in such a way to where our best shooters can't defend. Our best defensive players can't score. None of them can rebound. It's like when you need something, you have to give up something else, and it's just hard to win that way when you don't have any size on the floor to rebound the ball and clean up mistakes. And then you got the Russell Westbrook factor also thrown in there, and you just like you deal with the turnovers there, you deal with the turnovers with LeBron, who are just going to make turnovers because they're passers in general, and have the ball in their hands a lot of the time. It's just one of those situations where it's like, all right, we can't have Malik Monk turning the ball over a lot. We can't have THT going 0 for 5. We can't have Austin Reeves going 1 for 5 from 3. These are things we just can't afford to let happen because we don't rebound the ball enough. So that's what it is. The Lakers must, if they're serious about competing this season, it is not too late to roster a center. You really do need one. He don't have to be all that talented. He just has to be somebody you could put down there to do the things that we've been talking about here. That will give us the best opportunity, as we saw in the first quarter against Toronto, and ultimately the entire Toronto game from which we played a center with Wenyen Gabriel and Bron together. We give ourselves a chance. When we ask players to play out of position, it gets us hurt every time. We're not very good defensively, so I know we switch for a reason, but that killed us in this last game. We cannot switch just to be switching. If you're going to find yourself with a guy my height trying to guard Porzingis, the switch didn't work. And don't tell me Dwight can't guard Porzingis, because no one can. Throw someone who's tall enough to at least try. And I didn't see us do that. So I hate to harp so much on that game. I tried my best to keep from doing so. But as a fan, you just understand that every time you talk about the different things that the Lakers are progressing at, you still have to think about that factor. And that factor is simply this. Vogel going to put small ball on the floor. And when he does, your score is going to reflect what happens when you do that. Down you go. It's just what happens. So when you see it enough times, even when you think about other aspects of the game, you know that's going to be the killer. You know that's going to be ultimately what knocks you down. So it's ever so important that other guys rebound the ball. It's ever so important that LeBron James continues to rebound. Rebounding is key. Fight through screens. Limit bad three-point shots. Follow Russie's lead. He's passing up three-point shots because he knows his rhythm isn't there. And ever since he started doing that, let me tell you what has happened. His three-point percentage has gone up. His choices and shot selection has gone up, and the defense has had to guard him differently. Those three-point shots, they're not closing out on him in the same light. They're giving him a little more space because he's shooting the ones he should, and he's passing up other ones that they give him too much space on. This is something that the defense is going to have to continue to react to if that three-point shot continues to fall. And I think as he continues to take better ones and sees it fall, he's going to start seeing it fall more and more. Look for Russell Westbrook's shot to start getting even better from here. I'm predicting something. Probably, I don't know if it'll age well with the struggles that he's had, but this is a Hall of Famer, man. And certain things are just matter of fact. What we've seen from Russell Westbrook is unprecedented, and it's bad, but it ain't been what he's been for 15 years. And I refuse to be so caught up as a prisoner of the moment, especially when I understand all the different factors into adjusting to coming back home when you're him and playing this poorly. But I also know what happens over time when you're in situations. You get used to them. And for some people, it takes longer than others. But for him, I think he's starting to now. All of this is happening on the road. We still have to see if he gets it right at the Crow. But as long as we're on the road, I expect to see good Russell Westbrook. And I think that's going to contribute a great deal. Now, his defensive issues tonight, they're going to have to be limited because he's going up against such a talented guard. I would prefer us not even put him on Darius Garland. That's a bad look. Avery Bradley's going to be important tonight. You know I don't love playing Avery Bradley, but I really have appreciated what I've seen from him over the last couple of games, and I just trust him a bit more than I did most of the time when I was complaining about him. He's played better, and his corner shot is starting to fall. So his conditioning is better than it was, and I think that's what we're seeing. Much happier with him. So, Wenyen Gabriel, stop fouling, bro. If you want to stay in this league, you got to stop fouling. They can't keep you on the floor if you're fouling like you've been fouling that last game. That's all it's about, bro. That's the difference between being a player in this league and not for you. Because your effort on some Grant Williams type stuff from the Celtics, even though your skills are not crazy great skills, hard work and hustle work for guys who have the metrics to make them work. And you already have a nice three-point shot, and like I said, you dive into the paint harder than most. You are going to be the recipient of passes that other guys are not going to take or be able to get because you're not going to move as hard as you. So I hear what people are saying, oh, he's an average player. He's average. He's not average. What he is a gamer. And I know players who are not overly skilled who can still give you a double-double off of sheer effort. Russell Westbrook, Wenyen Gabriel. Do not underestimate what a long body can do, because we talked about this. With Mobley and AD, we're talking about that. Don't underestimate what a long body can do when the effort and intent is there. He has both. He has all three. So that's what it is, man. I'm excited about Wenyen Gabriel. I'm not hearing all this that he's average. I've seen him hit a couple threes, and I've seen him hit some and ones, and I've seen him slide his feet to keep up with guys that are his size. That's literally all I need him to be. That's it. He ain't got to be KD. So. Yeah, it feels good to be able to speak freely without worrying about the clock. That's what you're seeing here. And ultimately, this particular game is going to be a tough one, but I'm very encouraged by the fact that it's first on the road, since the Lakers seem to be playing better there for some reason, and the fact that they do have size missing because this is such a huge team. it's nice to see one or two of them guys not available tonight. Bron is going to play great. He's in Cleveland. Don't be surprised if he goes for 55. Don't be surprised. Problem is Garland could probably go for 30 and 15, and that could be a problem for us in and of itself. At the end of the day, this is a young team. A good one, but outside of Kevin Love and Caris LeVert, ultimately we're looking at a bunch of young guys. Cedi Osman's won a championship. So these things, we can take advantage there. So that's what I got to say, man. I don't think this is going to be a Laker win, but I'm not as low on the team as I've been as of late. The last one was just strictly a coach thing. That was just strictly, hey, you don't have everything you need, you're not going to win. But the guys played well, and that matters. That simply matters. So that's what I got, man. That's what I got. Let's cut down on our mistakes. Don't foul as much tonight. Rebound the ball. Free throw shooting was good in the last game, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how that went. We want to continue to keep our free throw shooting above 70%. Like I said, not as many threes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm trying to make sure I get everything out there, but that's what I got to say, man. Kevin Love. I'm going to be looking to see if he shoots us out the park today. This is just a vibe I'm getting. The Lakers are coming to town. Bron's in town. Kevin Love's going to be awake for this one. So, yeah, that's what I got, man. BDF 44. Everyone enjoy the game. It starts in a couple hours, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern. Peace out.